Hello again, everyone. I'm Dr. George Simon, and welcome to another edition of the new Character Matters program. This is the program where we talk about what I consider to be the defining issue of our time, the character crisis that we have faced for some time now, and that affects every aspect of our lives, from our world affairs, our politics, our community affairs, to our interpersonal relationships, and most especially our most intimate relationships. Every aspect of our lives is affected by the character issue. And out of concern for this, I have written some books, 5 best-selling books: In Sheep's Clothing, Understanding and Dealing with Manipulative People, published in over 25 languages and countries. Character Disturbance, The Phenomenon of Our Age, The Judas Syndrome, How Did We End Up Here, with my co-author, Dr. Kathy Armistead, and my latest offering, Essentials for the Journey, Embracing and Living the 10 Commandments of Character, Proven Principles for a Psychologically Healthy and Spiritually Rich Life. And today I want to talk about something pretty special because very soon I'll be appearing again in a seminar online at AVAIYA University. And the title of that seminar is Breaking Free of Narcissistic Abuse and Gaslighting. I'll be interviewed by Andy Anderson, and I have been interviewed before by Andy, and I know her to be a good interviewer, and I think this will be a good seminar. So I invite you to tune in. I have a link to that seminar in my blog post of today at drgeorgesimon.com. That's drgeorgesimon.com. Today, Wednesday, April the 27th. In that post, you'll find a link to the seminar. And as I mentioned, it promises to be a good interview, as it always is. And I'm going to give you a preview today of what we'll be talking about, because narcissistic abuse is a hot topic these days. Narcissism, as you may know from past podcasts and from my books and other written articles, I believe to be a spectrum phenomenon, varying insofar as type and degree, and all the current research is bearing that out. This was a discovery of mine many years ago when I was doing my clinical case study research for my books. But the vast majority of the research is bearing this out. There are different types of narcissism, different qualitative types of narcissism, and each type affects relationships in a different way. Narcissistic abuse can happen in a variety of forms. And the gaslighting effect can happen in a variety of ways. The gaslighting effect being that crazy-making feeling that you get when you believe one thing to be pretty true. Your gut tells you it's true. Your rational mind tells you it's true. But the person you're in a relationship with is so gifted or so skilled in the art of impression management and the use of certain manipulation tactics that they get you to thinking that you have it all wrong. This creates the gaslighting effect. When I first wrote about it in Sheep's Clothing, the first edition back in 1996, there was no commonly accepted name for this crazy-making feeling. that certain characters can induce in you. And narcissists are particularly good at it, regardless of the type of narcissist they are, because one characteristic of narcissism is always being right. Either the compensatory need to be right or the sincere belief in being right despite all the objective evidence to the contrary. And I have a lot to say about that in my books, too. It's a very interesting phenomenon. With respect to certain types of narcissists, their belief that they are right even in the face of overwhelming evidence, objective evidence to the contrary, is more of a defiant stance than it is an unconscious defense against painful reality. For the malignantly narcissistic among us, reality is what they insist it is, simply because they are subordinate to no one or nothing. And the truth is the ultimate authority. And narcissists of the grandiose type and the more malignant types simply do not bow to anything superior. They absolutely refuse to accept what they don't lay down as true. They are subordinate to no one and nothing. It's a truly defiant stance. It's conscious, it's deliberate, it is habitual, it's part of a style, it's part of a way of relating to the world that fits with the image that the person wants to have. They like seeing themselves as the ultimate authority. They don't like being subordinate to any other authority. And so they set their own rules, and in some cases, they even set their own reality. And in relationships with these kinds of characters, one of the things that enhances the gaslighting effect is the incredible confidence that they can display when they're giving their version of reality to you, when they're handing it out, when they're insisting that they're right despite every bit of evidence that they're wrong, and despite your suspicions and your reasoning that they have things really twisted. So when they act with conviction, with what appears to be certainty, if you have any uncertainties yourself, if you have any qualms, maybe even qualms of conscience, you may start to doubt. You might even say to yourself, how can they be so sure? Maybe I'm missing something here. Maybe I need to take another look at this. So they're adept at inducing the gaslighting effect. Now, over time, as these folks use and abuse in relationships, it becomes very clear that despite the fact that they think they have it all right and that they are right all the time, that many of the things that they have done to you are just plain wrong, distasteful, harmful, abusive, toxic. And so there comes that point when you no longer care who's right or wrong with respect to some kind of intellectual debate. All you know is that you can't take it anymore and you want out. Now, by that time, however, you have come to doubt yourself enough, and you've gained so much mistrust that it's hard to discern what, where, how, and whom to trust again. So breaking free of narcissistic abuse and the gaslighting effect is no easy task. And many times, survivors of this kind of abuse need a good deal of support. But here's the problem. Many times, folks go for support, go for help, seek out a counselor as a survivor of narcissistic abuse, and they tell their story. But if the counselor does not get it with respect to the nature of character disturbance, if the counselor doesn't really get it as to how certain narcissists operate, how they induce this effect, how they manage to, over time, erode the confidence of the other person, help that person turn into something that they were not before, then the person is not likely to get the kind of support they need. They're not likely to get the kind of understanding they need. As a matter of fact, they might even find themselves being faulted. They might find themselves being mischaracterized, misjudged, mislabeled. And that reintroduces even more trauma. That makes the person feel like there is no support. It also keeps the gaslighting effect going. When the person is saying to themselves, well, even the counselor thinks I'm wrong, when I, in my gut, really sincerely believe I'm right, it's a very traumatizing experience. Now, over time, with the right kind of support, folks can reclaim their sense of rationality. They can reclaim their confidence. They can get back to being the person that they were before they lost their sense of self-worth, before they became riddled with self-doubt, before they found their ability and willingness to take chances and to assert themselves, before they found those qualities in themselves eroded. They can get back to more normal with the right kind of support. And not only that, with the right kind of support, they can go beyond just restoring who they were and grow into even healthier, stronger, more purpose-driven characters. So the right kind of support can go a long way, but it takes a counselor experienced in these things. Character disturbance is a unique phenomenon. It is the phenomenon of our age. It's much more widespread than we'd like to think. And because these folks are such good impression managers many times, they can and have, in many cases, bamboozled even the best of counselors. And that's why, especially in couples counseling, victims of narcissistic abuse find themselves feeling traumatized by the therapy experience as well. It depends on the model in which the counselor operates. If the counselor operates within a model that everyone within the family system has issues to address, which is a perfectly valid model, then they're going to approach matters in a particular way, a way in which perhaps the victim of subtle narcissistic abuse is likely to feel unheard, not validated, is likely to feel like they're the bad guy, so to speak. So it takes a really discerning therapist, someone very skilled in the knowledge of the spectrum of character disturbance, and who's done their diagnostic homework, who has sized up in character everyone, and who has enough history to understand that people can, under the weight of consistent abuse that traumatizes in itself, that people change, and not for the good. They no longer are the person they once were. And so without that knowledge, without that knowledge of who this person was before they fell prey to an onslaught of manipulation and gaslighting, then you're going to misread things if you're the therapist. You're going to misread who the person really is at the core. So it's important to take all these things into consideration. These are some of the things that Andy and I will be talking about when we visit at AVAIYA University online and talk about narcissistic abuse and the gaslighting effect. So I hope you'll tune in, and I hope that you'll avail yourself of the latest post on my blog at drgeorgesimon.com. In it, you'll find a link where you can access the interview that I'll be giving and the seminar that will be posted online at AVAIYA University. And I hope you'll tune in again next time for another edition of The New Character Matters. Until then, I'm Dr. George Simon. Thanks for tuning in. Take care.